Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our spiritual tribe out there? In today's episode, we'll be discussing history's impact on spirituality and ancestral healing with special guest and fellow podcaster Ashley Oppon. Ashley is owner and shamanic practitioner at Sankofa Healing Sanctuary. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley and John. It's so nice to be here. I'm so excited. Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you on. Now, first thing I'm going to ask is, tell us about your podcast.
Okay. Yeah. So I host a podcast called Dine with the Divine. We talk about folklore, history, historical figures. We just talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about like different spiritual paths I like to introduce and like culture, introducing that to people. And then we talk about a dish or some food or something food related to always go with the topic. So it's a good time. It's fun. We try our best. Yeah.
I mean, I love that you incorporate the food into that because you had me at food. I love to eat. So.
Right, exactly.
Same.
So what's the most like unique pairing you've had so far in terms of like topic with food?
Okay, so actually this, and I do my episodes and then half the time I don't know when they'll come out. So it doesn't matter. I'll just bring this up. I don't know if this episode even came out yet. It's fine. But I talked to actually somebody who was my friend, and she is Taino Indian partially, and we talked about how basically the Taino people, in their efforts to get rid of the Spaniards, just like stopped growing food. And then the Spaniards were super mad, and they were like, yeah, so we're just not going to help you. And they just like ran, they just like left them in the lurch. And there's only so many cows the Spanish could bring, and then they were like, oh no, this is so bad. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I had never known that had happened. Yeah, it was, I think, in the 1500s it happened. So yeah, it was interesting.
It was a food strike.
Yeah, they literally had a food strike. They just went to like the innermost parts of the island. They were like, we're just gonna keep all our food where you guys can't find it, and like, good luck. Yeah. They're like, bye.
I'm not gonna lie, I low-key love that. So
same. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah.
I was like, bosses. Yeah. I was like,
yes. I feel like we kind of do that even now, right? Like, if we love you, we want to take care of you. Like, I'm in the Hispanic culture, so like, if we welcome you, we want to feed you nonstop.
Yes.
Like, hey, we just had like second dinner, and it's like, cool. Well, do you want dessert? And they're like, that's a full ass meal, of course, but that's because we love you. So, but if we don't, then it's just like, I'm kind of hungry. Oh yeah. You should probably go get something to eat. I'm sorry we kept
there's a McDonald's down the street. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing I love about food too, is because it brings people together. Like, you can't think of like every culture approaches it differently, but like we all have food that brings us towards our culture. We all have cultural foods, and then we all have foods that are family meals and things that bring people together. And a lot of cultures, usually I would say outside, I don't know if Americans are so much like this, but a lot outside the United States, especially, people like that is the way they welcome you into their house, right? With food. Like, you go somewhere and they're like, did you eat? Are you hungry? And sometimes you're like, no, I'm not hungry. They're like, but you must eat. Yeah, like that's how, at least that's how
you must.
That's
eat.
How West African people are. We're very much like, oh, you ate? that's fine. Sit down. I'll make you something. Like, we don't care like how you feel. You must eat now. You have come to my house. I must feed you. So
Yeah,
it's a
and
good
it's
time.
the first tell sign too, because if it's like, well, I'm not hungry. Oh my gosh, what's wrong? Are you sick? Is everything okay?
Right? Yes. Are you
It's a
upset?
very
Like,
big
did something
sign.
happen? Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, is every family okay? Everything all right? You're not eating. You're like, I'm full.
They're like, that's not real.
I know.
Being full is an illusion.
It's a
Bull.
myth.
Exactly. That's silly. You're not full. Yeah.
That's silly.
I know.
So then I think that's really amazing. And you talk about folklore and mythology too, right?
Yes.
I don't remember if I saw it but do you also talk about cryptids?
Oh, we have. Yes. I don't know so much about them. And actually, I'm a very scared person. So, like, I don't like to talk about too many things. And I'm also very superstitious. I'm always like, if I talk about it, it will come. But like, we had an episode with these two awesome people, Sun and Shaw, and they're both Malaysian. And we talked about like Malaysian ghouls and ghosts and like strange cryptozoology stuff. Like, and that was wild because I learned so much about Southeast Asia mythology and some of their ghouls, and they have some really wild ghouls down there. Yeah, that all want to kill men, by the way. So sorry, John. Just be careful.
I don't blame them. You know, we deserve it sometimes.
Yeah, it was wild. So we don't talk about them usually, but that episode it was very appropriate, and it was really fun, and it was really scary. So it was good. It was all good.
You didn't feel like you were back and get butt talking about it?
Yeah, I felt I was far enough away. We have our one guest, Shaw, who was actually in Malaysia. I'm like, we have a 12-hour time difference. We are good. They can't catch up to me. I think we'll be okay.
I love that. They can't catch up.
They can't catch up. But in that episode, she was so funny. She was telling us about how there is a land bridge between like Malaysia and Laos. And so she's like, so if you're in Laos, like you still have to be careful. I was like, oh boy. Okay, I'll remember that for the future, just in case I ever find myself in Laos. I will be on alert. So yeah,
just shake it off. Shake off when you're in Laos. Just shake off the energy.
Exactly.
Like, nope. We didn't talk about it. You can't. You're not invited.
Exactly. Oh God.
So then you're specific, like you like to tie in the historical aspects of things.
Yeah.
Which I love that, because I feel like oftentimes when we talk about topics, I forget to really look into the history, which is super important.
Yeah.
So for you, what have you found in terms of how history impacts like spirituality?
So like, I know when I kind of started my spiritual path to stuff, I was very, and I know people now just say like new agey. I was very like new agey. I had my crystals and I had my sage and I had all this stuff, and it was cool and I loved it and it was great. And then, I think this is a little, I'm a little older. I'm in my mid 30s. So I was like 15, 16 when I really started looking stuff up. I've always loved religion and stuff, so I've always liked to read about it and find out different things. But then it was like cultural appropriation wasn't like a thing people talked about. So everybody was kind of just doing whatever they saw or like whatever you could find in books or on the internet. And then when I started learning more about my own practice and like how people practice, and then kind of started being more realizing that I was doing a lot of things from different cultures, and then realizing like I had no idea why those people did those things. I was like, well, that's not really fair. Like, you know what I mean? And that's not really very authentic, like of me. If I'm just like, how can I be deeper in my spiritual practice if I have no idea where these spiritual practices come from? And in addition, knowing that, for instance, there's certain things I don't do them, but there's certain practices that were banned by whatever colonial powers in certain places. Oh, these people are not allowed to do this anymore. You're not allowed to do this. That were spiritually important to those people. So it's like when we bring it back up, now it's like if you don't know the history of why it was even taken away and we don't acknowledge that, it's kind of disrespectful to those people, whoever they are, whatever group. So I think it's really important to know the history and to also understand why it is a big deal to those groups. For instance, like using sage, that kind of thing. I think that's like a real basic one. A lot of people use sage. It's not, and I'm not here to tell people how to use sage because that's not, I'm not indigenous to the Americas, but it's important to understand what like just using sage to clear something and what an actual smudging ceremony is, so that we don't get those mixed up and we don't act like it's not a big deal, because for certain Native American groups, it is a big deal. And we want to, respect that and also keep the sanctity of it. If we just do stuff willy-nilly all the time, it's not sacred anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, it's something people do and it's whatever. And there's no, and not to, well, I can. No, I guess I can get woo-woo here. Not to get too,
Let's do it. Let's get
woo-woo. But it takes away the spiritual aspect of something. Like I see that a lot with clearing. Oh, I'm gonna clear with sage or with whatever. The thing is, it's not the sage that's doing it. It's like that's not the thing that is magical. It's the person, it's the intention. So when we just do whatever and just say, well, everybody else does it, so I'm going to do it like this. It's like, okay, but you're really not doing anything. You're just lighting herbs in your house, like, which is fine. But if there's
you're basically just lighting a candle.
Yeah, you're just lighting it like a scented candle, girl. And that's fine. Like, it's not a problem. But if you are trying to do something to get deeper into a practice, you want to know the root of it and where it comes from and all that kind of stuff. And I think, yeah, it's really important to know all those things to get to a good place within yourself of like what you want your spiritual practice to look like. Yeah, that's my long-winded answer to
It was a great response. And, I completely agree. We've talked about that in the past, that especially with the new age kind of emergences, that things are, for lack of a better term, being kind of bastardized, where it's like, you hear it so often, well, go sage your house. And it's like, cool. But without knowing why and how that started and what that actually means, you are essentially just lighting something in your home and waving it around and hoping that it works.
Yeah.
Same with crystals, right? Like, amethyst heals this, or rose quartz helps with that. And so people are like, oh, let me buy those, stick them in my house. And why is it not working? And it's like, well, because there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
And so having that, as you said, that respect to really try and find, where did this come from? And how can that help me? And maybe it evolves, right? Maybe you look up the history and you respect the origins and the people that really, drove that forward, and then you evolve it to fit your practice. But at least you're understanding, this is the origins. This is what that means. And this is now how it's going to look like for me.
Absolutely. And that's the cool thing about it too, is like, again, the other side of the cultural appropriation thing is that it is okay to do something and know its history and then say, well, this is how it works for me. Like, I'm not, one example I use is that in my practice, I work with certain deities. One of the deities happens to be Oshun, which is a goddess from the Ifa tradition from West Africa, from Yoruba people. I'm not Yoruba, but I work with this deity, and not in the specific way that those people from that specific indigenous religion do. And so I'm not disrespecting them by doing that, because I'm not saying, oh, I am a Ifa priestess or a Babalawo or anything like that. I'm just saying I work with this goddess and I'm not doing it the way they do, which is fine. This is my own way of doing it. And that way you're not disrespecting, because I understand who she is to them, and that's cool. And that's not, it's not my place to say anything about that, or, if I'm not going to be part of it, but I just do my own thing and it works out. So yeah, exactly. People can practice different things. Again, you can burn sage. That's not a problem. I mean, as long as it's like you ethically source it and everything. But like, you can burn stuff. Use garden sage, girls. Like, it's fine. You can do whatever you want, but like, just know, like, this is where it comes from. These people are the ones who really used it first, and they're the ones who discovered that it's good for that. And then like, you're good. It's fine. And you can use it the way you choose to use it. That's fine. Yeah.
So you said you work with deities.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first start working with deities, and what does that look like? Like how?
Yeah. So it all started a long time ago. When I
love it. Tell us.
So years ago, actually, I used to go to a mediumship circle with a friend of mine who's now like really, really good at mediumship, and I was like, I'm not very good at this. We took this like workshop, and it was about like shamanic healing and this and that. And after that, I was kind of really curious about shamanic work. I didn't really know about it, this and that. And even my view of shamanic work has evolved, learning more about its origins. But I started working with a teacher, and when I started working with this teacher, I started working with different deities then. And the deities that she worked with when she started were a lot of like Egyptian deities. Now, I didn't really work with any deities at all. I was raised Catholic. I love Jesus. He's my homeboy. And that's like what I knew. But once I started working with these other deities, it was just so interesting. And I work with them for different things. So the way I do it is like, if I'm working with somebody and they have a really big issue with being able to see, breaking down walls, being able to really see what they need to see. One of the deities I happen to work with is Baba Yaga. Again, speaking about like kind of history and cultural appropriation and things like that. I'm not Slavic. She's a Slavic witch. I'm not Slavic at all. But I don't work with her in the way maybe a Slavic person would. I just work with her in a specific way that I help people see truths with her. She's kind of, for lack of a better word, I kind of invoke her in my practice. I talk to her and ask her to kind of come in and help these people see what they need to see any truths they need to see, and then comfort them whenever they figure out what they need to do next. And that's usually, how I work with a lot of different deities, and they all have different purposes in my practice for what they do and how they help me or how they help others.
How did you learn to connect to them?
Yeah, so it's interesting because some of the deities I learned to connect with, it was very natural. I would do these journeys, which were like deep meditations, basically with drumming, and I would see whoever was supposed to come forward. They would just come forward. I would see them in a certain light, or they would I would just get a feeling for the kind of person they were. And I have a very vivid imagination, which I think helps a lot. And I love mythology. So a lot of these deities I could recognize before anything. And I would confirm it with, different things, whether it was tarot cards or whatever. I'd confirm, like, is this the deity I'm supposed to work with? But then there's deities that for instance, like Hecate, I've worked with Hecate. I think, and she, for me, is a deity that comes in to deal with any type of seriously shit energy and bad magic. And for me, my own heritage, I'm Ghanaian. My dad's from Ghana, and my mom is from England, but her whole family's from Jamaica. So I'm very we're all very wrapped up in superstition and juju, stories about juju. So I've always been very afraid of quote unquote evil or bad things, because I had always grown up with all these stories. Well, this person did this and they went crazy, or this happened, and this happened, this person cursed. So like, I've always been very fearful of trying to work with anybody I saw as quote unquote dark. And I always saw Hecate as quote unquote dark. But once I actually started to work with her and learn how she can actually, the darkness, number one, is not always a bad thing. And because you can't have lightness if you can't have darkness. And if her whole job is to transmute things and to open doors, and she lives in the dark, then how could she be bad? Like she's not bad. Nothing. And the other thing is, nothing is just good or bad. And that's something I had to learn too through my journey. Everything is not just like, this is a good one, this is a bad. It's not like that. Especially with Hecate too. She's very like, at least the way I work with her and the way I see her, she's very open. She's very willing to help anybody who needs it, but she's also very like, well, you have to get your shit together. Like, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like you don't. Like, so I'm like, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So she's real.
Yeah.
She's like, get it together. I'm not doing it for you.
Yes. No sugarcoating, none of that. So like learning that that really opened my eyes too, when I was like always thinking like one thing is either good or bad or evil and I was like, wait, no, actually there's like a duality to everything. Like it's not that serious. So yeah. I hope I answered your question. I just started talking.
Absolutely. No, you did. So when you're helping other people heal, are you helping them kind of form those deity connections as well? Or are you kind of the middle person that helps with the deities that need to be present with them?
So it depends. If there's somebody, if I have some clients who are just more again, for lack of a better word, like muggles, like they're very just like everyday people who are just like, oh, I'm having this problem or blah blah blah. So that way I'm kind of the intermediary, right, between like the deities and the person. But when I work with my like spiritual people, and if they want me to help introduce them to deities, or they say, well, I work with a specific deity, or I want to work with them, what should I do, or something like that, then I can kind of help them with that too. And I see that a lot too with people who say especially Hecate, and I don't know, I think it's TikTok. That's what I've said before. I think it's everybody loves Hecate and everybody wants to work with Hecate. That's like the thing, like, oh, Hecate. And don't get me wrong, she's awesome and I get it. Like, I totally get it. But not everybody knows how to approach things. Or a lot of times when people are at the beginning of their journey, they don't realize that all of this spiritual stuff, it's not just the aesthetic, it's not just fun. Like, you're gonna end up really looking inside yourself. And at times it's not always gonna be so great. It's not only about like, doing like a Sabbath in your room or decorating altar. It's like seriously going inside yourself and figuring out who you are, who you want to be, how you want to affect the world, and letting these deities help you do that. So sometimes I deal with people who are like, oh, I started doing this and I wanted to do this, but now I'm like in kind of a weird spiritual crisis. And maybe I should just go back to church. And I'm like, well, I mean, girl, if you want to, that's fine. But like, calm down. It's going to be fine. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we go out on a limb and we get scared, we knee-jerk extreme go back to our origins. So
Yes.
if you grew up super religious or super whatever, it's you withdraw. Really, like It's like when you touch the fire, like oop, and then you go way far back, forgetting that maybe you just need to adapt the way you approach it versus like dropping it completely.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's so awesome. So what kind of, for you, who typically approaches you for help? Like what kind of shamanic help do you provide?
So when it comes to shamanism, I've had a lot of people come with what we call like soul retrieval. So soul retrieval it can happen when somebody goes through basically any type of trauma. So it could be from childhood trauma. It could be from something like an accident or so anything that happened. So what the belief is that the soul fractions into pieces when somebody goes through a trauma. And when you're missing part of your soul, the person will never feel completely whole, or they'll never feel completely right. They may feel like something's missing, or they may feel like, I just feel down sometimes. I don't know why, and I don't know what's going on. Sometimes they may not know that this has happened to them. So my job then is to kind of be the spirit world investigator and go and look for this piece of them. And before you can bring it back or integrate it, you have to help it heal, which can look like a lot of different things, whether it's talking, whether it's lots of conversation. And you have to also get the person ready to accept this part of them back. It's kind of, and I always tell people, like, especially clients, if I have shamanic clients, I always try to make sure, like, look, have you gone to like therapy about this? If they tell me something that's like real serious, like, look, have you gone to therapy about this? Or are you ready to kind of talk about this and confront it? Because I'm not a therapist. I'm never going to claim to be. I'm not here to re-traumatize people. So if you like, because I've had people who come, and if they say, oh, no, I don't want to, I don't like to work with that, because this is a supplemental thing. This is not your primary psychological care. Is not like me, random girl who really likes to talk to different gods and goddesses. Like I am not licensed. So I do have a lot of people who are like, yes, I'm in therapy, but this is something I really want to do. I'm like, awesome. You are my dream. So with soul retrieval, I talk to them about the trauma or anything that's happened to them. We discuss, we go over, and then we integrate. So that can look like, and a lot of time on the outside, so I'm doing all my spiritual work, but on the outside, that's me using drums, me using rattles, me getting them to a place where they are feeling good and being able to integrate this like healed part of them back into their psyche, basically. That's something that I do more often. That's something that people seem to have a big thing with. The things people don't come so much for, things like curses, but I have had somebody come had a curse or felt they had a curse, and we worked on that together too.
So you said that they have to, there's multiple steps, which makes sense. You go in, you retrieve. Now, where do you have to go to do that? Do you go into a meditative state, and how do you connect to them to be able to find that? That was a big question.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So yes, I have to go into a meditative state. And usually when I'm working with a client, if I'm drumming or I'm rattling, we're both there. Like they're wherever they are, but I go into my meditative state, which helps me look in. And so in the Western version of shamanism, there's 3 worlds. In the Eastern, in the original form too, but this is the not original one. So you have to figure out, kind of as the person working, which world we have to go into, and the different worlds have different purposes. There's the upper world, there's the middle world, and there's the lower world. And the way I look at them, everybody is a little different, but the way I look at them is that the upper world is where all your deities are, all these like high, like OG spirits, like old, like from every part of the world kind of spirits. Like they're all hanging out up there. And then people who do like Akashic records and stuff, they'll say that's where the Akashic records are. Then you have the lower world. And I always see the lower world as like our natural world if like people weren't there. So you got animals, you got people's power animals, so the animals that maybe represent their spirit, and all sorts of other little kind of smaller beings are down there. And then you have the middle world, and that's usually where people's souls end up. The middle world, I like to describe it as our world, but if you put on your spirit rose-colored glasses and all we saw was like spirits walking around and little trolls and fairies and imps and all that kind of good stuff. Like you could see all of them people walking around. And that's usually where you'll find like disincarnate spirits, your quote unquote ghosts, different kinds of, if you're looking for somebody who's dead, they're probably there. If you're looking for, somebody who's dead who hasn't gone to wherever they're supposed to be going, they're probably hanging out there. If you're looking for little spirits that are like not really, I forget what like the real good word for them, but spirits that are like low vibrational spirits, like that maybe are bothering people, but they're nothing to be scared of, those kinds of things, you'll find them there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then those, you use that area is usually where you'll find people's souls that have kind of broken off. And I have to kind of go exploring, and sometimes you just have to ask. I'm working with a deity, and I ask them, where will I find this thing, this part of this person's soul? And they kind of direct me, and I figure it out that way. But it's a whole big, interesting journey. When I'm journeying, I can fly, I can swim to the depths of the ocean, I can do all sorts of stuff that I cannot do when I am a conscious, regular human person.
So in this meditative state that you're in the middle world, right?
Yeah, usually end up being there.
It's something you can completely, like, it's a complete visualization. It's not something like you feel.
For me, it's a visualization that I can see it. Some people feel it, some people see it. I always see myself going on a journey. And because I have a friend who she also does the same type of work, and her journeys are way wilder than mine, and I'm always jealous of how like exciting and it's literally like a Michael Bay movie every single time. She'll be like, yeah, so then this happened. It's so crazy. Like I love it. But yeah, for me, it's all visualization, and I go here and I go there, and I'm looking and I see, and then I do feel things when I'm there. But I see them, and usually if I'm working with somebody, when we both come out of it, I write it down immediately, because you'll forget quick. But I write it down immediately so I can tell them and share with them everything, and then I go from there.
Do you think that her journey is different or more, adventurous because she's in there for a different purpose?
I think everybody just feels things differently. I know that, like, for instance, it's just like some people who like read tarot cards. Some people read tarot cards and they'll tell you, and it doesn't mean they're bad readers. Everybody's like, if you're talking about people who are, everybody's the same level. Some people will read it like a story. Some people will read it, every individual card means something different, and this is how it connects to this. And some people are completely intuitive. They're not talking about how they feel or what the card means. They're talking about how they feel. So I think it's just a matter of the way that we look at things. Like me, I'm very like, when I do journeys, I'm very like, okay, this happened, and now we're done. She's very into every single thing, and like, this happened and this is how I felt when it happened. And I think because she's so connected to like her deities when she works, I think they show her things differently. Yeah.
How did you learn to go into that world to soul retrieve? Like, is this something you trained, or like, because it's not something I feel like you could just like, we're going to school to learn this, guys, open your book. That's you're taking yourself to a completely different place. So
yeah.
How did that journey come about?
Ooh, so a few years ago when I first started, I started having real weird dreams, and my grandma, who I never met, she died way, way before I was born. She's always been kind of my primary guide. And I didn't really know that. I just knew that she came to me, and she's come to my cousin, and I just always feel her around me when I'm going through it. So at this point, I was having dreams about her, and she was telling me to like look this thing up. And I was like, okay. So I started looking up like what shaman is. I never knew what it was at this point. I think I was in my like early mid-20s. And I looked it up and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I started contacting people who taught about it. And I found a teacher, and my teacher started teaching me all about shamanism and what it is. And the thing about it is, before you can help anybody else, you have to kind of heal yourself. So I had to go in and do all these things for myself, which was fun at first and then like awful because I then had to make a lot of like realizations about like myself and like how I was living my life and how I really felt about a lot of things that were going on in my life. Which really sucked. But then once I fixed it, once things got better, I was like, okay, wow, like I could spiritually like heal myself, and I would love to help more people. And that was like the next part of our journey, was learning how to help other people do the same thing. So she would teach me how to drum, how to focus, what to focus on, to help me get to this level. And yeah, that's how I learned how to do it. It's hard. I have a hard time sometimes focusing, or sometimes I have an expectation of like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, all right, so I see a tree and I see the ocean. Like I tell myself, and I literally have to let go to the point where I'm not having any expectations in order to be able to do it. And it took a long time to do that, but I got there. And then the advanced part of that, and depending on what kind of spiritual tradition people are from, is like channeling deities and that is like getting yourself out of the way, but like times 10. And that's also can be really, really difficult.
Have you reached that step?
Yes, I do. I have channeled, and it is actually wild. I always say it's kind of like a gas tank almost. When you do it, you have to bring yourself to the level where there's like 1% of you left in your brain. You have to completely let go, which is so scary. I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I'm the first time I did it. I was in a space and I was in a circle where I was completely safe. I was with people who I knew would never let anything bad happen to me. And I wasn't on. You don't have to do it on any psychedelics or anything. I wasn't. I know some people who do, which is fine, but I wasn't on any. And we drummed and like got ourselves to this place where I had to let go so much. And I think I was so scared. And I didn't realize I just started like screaming like bloody murder. Like, I think that was the first thing I was doing, was just like, ah! Like I was screaming. And then when I was able to like let go of that, like stop screaming, I was dancing, like, and I knew it wasn't me. I was just like dancing and I was just going crazy. Like it was nuts. Like, and then until this like spirit kind of let go of me, and then I kind of was exhausted. Like, but that's the important part of like kind of trying to keep like 1%. That way you kind of feel safe. You know that like you can get out of it. Like if I need to get out of it, I can get out of it. But it was an experience. It was cool. It's cool. I've done it a couple times and it's always been pretty wild, but it's awesome.
At the beginning, you said you're a scared person. So, and I'm same. Yeah. Same. So, how have you been able to navigate all of this with that fear? Because I feel like for me, if I go into that meditative world to do any kind of retrieval, I'm gonna be scared that demons and all sorts of things are going to be trying to get me. So like, how do you not break that with fear?
Yeah, that's definitely come with time, because it's come with learning more about myself and the protection I have around me. And like, I am a lazy spiritual person. I don't do, like some people be like, before I do my spiritual work, I do like a 20-minute cleansing. Like, I don't do that. I get some I like copal. Sometimes I'll just get some copal. I'll smudge my body. I'll smudge whatever. No, not smudge. I shouldn't say that. I will like clear myself with whatever. Then I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, during it, I'm like visualizing myself being clear. I'm like, I'm good. Okay, cool. And I just have learned so much that like all these deities or spirits that I work with, as long as I communicate with them, they're like, all right, we're down. Like I check with them kind of like so all system go before like I do anything. I'm like, you guys here, right? We're all like together. And they're like, yeah, we're here. I'm like, cool. And then
all systems go.
Yeah. Because like I always, and one thing, a lot of people who do different types of shamanism use the word hollow bone. Like I also realize like I am just a conduit. It's not me. I'm not here doing like magical spells in my attic. Like it's not like it's me. I've just built a connection with these deities and spirits so that they can work through me. And that's the way that I look at it. I'm nobody without them. I'm not, it's not me who's doing all this beautiful, perfect magic. And it's not, trust me, if it was me, it wouldn't be perfect. Like, so yeah, like when I'm just the one who has cultivated the relationship with them that they are wonderful enough and they have I don't know the word, but they are willing to work through me because we've cultivated this relationship.
It's almost like it's an honor that they're willing to be
exactly
choosing you to be that conduit.
Exactly. And that's why at the end of every single session, and even in the beginning of every single section, I always tell when we do like an opening prayer, I welcome in all the spirits. And I always say that I'm humbled by them coming because I am just a little dinky human who like I'm just a little African girl from New Jersey. Like who am I? So I'm always humbled that these big spirits are like, okay, like thank you for honoring us. So we're going to work through you to help other people and to help yourself. So yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, the piece you're missing is you're a part of that big spirit. So you're just as big.
I know. Thank you.
We're going to work on that.
I know me. I'm like, I'm nobody. Like, I know. I have a piece in it, but I'm just always just really thankful that I've been able, that I have the privilege to work this way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So you mentioned tarot and soul retrieval and drumming and all of these things that are just all very different components of a spiritual connection, right? So was there anything when you were you're still on your journey, but when you started the journey and you were connecting to these different modalities, was there like one specific one that you're just like, oh, I feel it in my soul. Like this is my connection. This is what I am tuned to.
So when I started, like when I was younger, it was tarot cards. That was my favorite thing. Like when I really started, and I only started reading tarot cards because I broke up with a boy, which was just such a lame reason.
Whatever gets you there.
I know this boy broke my heart, and I was like, I have to find out what's gonna happen. So that's when I started reading tarot cards. But I never realized that like it was gonna take me on like a path to being like, oh, okay, I'm into all this other stuff. And through tarot is how I connected with other people in the kind of the spiritual space and how I was able to learn other things. So tarot was my first like love when it came to kind of this space. And also, so I like I said before, I grew up like Catholic, and I was always told that like these things are bad, right? Like this is bad, bad, bad. This is a terrible idea. And it really tortured me like for a while with tarot, because I really enjoyed it. I love learning. I like learning, looking at the different pictures and seeing how people interpret them. But I really thought for a while I was nervous because people are like, yikes, girl, what are you going to do? You're going to go to hell and then you're going to feel bad about it. And I was like, oh no.
You're gonna go to hell and then you're gonna feel
like you're gonna feel mighty dumb when you end up next to Satan. And I'm like, oh my God. So for a while I was actually really scared. But then I realized like this is just a tool. This is literally just paper. And it's just paper where different artists make pretty pictures and I get to look at them. And it's again, it's all about intention. I'm not doing anything that's gonna put me in quote unquote hell. So I think I'll be all right. So yeah, tarot is my number one connection, basically.
Now, speaking of Satan,
let's do it.
Let's do it. So you didn't know that you were on a Christian podcast? I'm joking. He scowled at me.
What?
So
what?
I have a bad sense of humor.
Shit, I'm on the wrong podcast.
So, because we start our journey somewhere, and like you said, it's not always perfect. So did you find have you found as you're practicing that you have encountered anything not so great?
Yeah.
That was a really weird way to ask that. Have you ever encountered any of the negative things?
Yeah.
That was a very long-winded question.
I got what you were putting down. That's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I've so it's really interesting that one thing I used to always think, again, like evil, good, evil. But I realized that a lot of stuff is like the negative comes from ego. I felt that more than anything is people I have encountered, especially in the spiritual space. When things seem to go south, it usually has to do with somebody who has decided they are way more important than they probably are. Like they are the be all and end all. And that's why I'm always so like, oh my gosh, I'm so humbled. This is not the only reason, but one reason I'm always like, it's not me. And I think it's because I've seen so many people who become like, it's me. I am the magician of the Western woods. And then they become like complete psychopaths. Like I know.
I am Zul.
Yeah. I know so many people who this is like happened to. And also when I work with people, so actually this is kind of wild, but I worked with a woman before who kept trying to tell me that she had these like demons in her house, that they were coming from this tree near her house. So I went to her house and we did this whole clearing around her house, and she said they were attacking her dog and all these issues. So the thing that I kind of realized was that it was her. Not that she was evil or anything. This woman had like a tremendous amount of trauma. Like she had tried to like die by suicide. Her brother had died by suicide. She used to be a drug addict. Her mother had died by suicide. And it was like, girl, like you are not that, I don't want to say it like this. To me, it's not her fault. But she had never dealt with any of her stuff. So all these negative things that were coming out were because she had never dealt with her stuff. So it was all affecting her. That's why you're having nightmares. That's why this is affecting this, and all these different things going on in your home is these negative things that are happening to you. So there's that. And then on the other hand, dealing with like negative forces, I have seen it, and a lot of the time these negative forces, now it depends on also, again, culturally where people are from, because sometimes, and especially in different West African countries, one thing I know is people are very apt to believe, and I also believe them, don't get me wrong, but people are apt to believe that they have had curses put on them, or somebody is doing something negative to their family, which in a lot of cases is true. So in that case, if I can't do it, I will always try to get somebody who knows this person's belief system, because that's what works best in those cases. And I have seen that happen a few times. I had a client once who was Haitian, and they were dealing with a lot of negative forces that I knew that, like, little old me, I don't understand these things to be able to get rid of them. So I was able to find someone else who did Haitian voodoo who was able to help them, because it is, again, cultural context. Sometimes I'm not able to figure out this specific kind of negative entity that's bothering you, but this person from your culture knows exactly how to get rid of it and what to do. Sometimes they might tell me and I could do it for them, but if they can go see that person, it's even better. There may be specific prayers in a language that I don't speak, and it may be a lot easier for them to deal with it that way.
Interesting. I've never thought of it that way, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
The woman that you talked about that, the tree was demonic. That sounds weird. So the woman that seemed to be manifesting those occurrences because she hadn't dealt with her stuff. I mean, even if we step back and take like the supernatural paranormal out of it, any person that has dealt with trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma that swallows it down and suppresses it, it is definitely going to come out in different ways. And so the fact that hers is, spreading into the world that we don't tend to talk about in the typical society, it just is an additional layer. But realistically, it makes sense. You're suppressing that stuff is absolutely going to come out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
What about you, John? What are you thinking?
I don't know at all. I don't know. I have nothing.
I have nothing.
I'm following, but I have got nothing.
She's always so quiet. I try to make sure I
Yeah.
She does, and then she catches me off guard and nothing.
nothing.
My name's George.
Hey, well, there are people that they're like, "Do you let John talk?" And I'm like, "Look here."
Yeah, she always does. John will talk when John will talk. Sometimes he has stuff to say. Sometimes
he absorbs. He's absorbing.
Yes,
I get it. It's fine.
I do. It hits me later, and then like Ashley, usually I have questions after the fact. I'm like, oh well, next time.
So, how's your dream world? Like, because we've noticed that, like, it's not something we planned, but there's a theme going on with a lot of our guests this season where like dreams come up. So now I'm just like, okay, universe, you apparently want us to talk about sleep. So
yeah. So my dream world, it can get real weird.
Same.
Yeah, right? Like sometimes it's so funny because I'll have dreams and I'll be like, that means something. And then throughout my day, it'll, like, I had a dream the other day about work. And then throughout the day, I was like, this is exactly what I didn't want to happen because this is what happened in my dream. Like, and I just realized, like, oh, this is exactly what my dream was trying to tell me. So, like, I feel like it's half and half for me. Sometimes I'll have dreams that are like predictive, or like they're trying to tell me something, or there's a message, and then I'll have like nonsense dreams, and I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck was that? I'm like, that was complete madness.
And there goes my imagination.
80% of mine.
Yeah. I'm like, no, this is
like 85% of my dreams right there. It's just, what the fuck?
So what happens when you don't address your shit, Jonathan? No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Teasing. I think we all have wacky dreams at some point.
Definitely.
Do you ever feel vulnerable in your sleep?
Yeah, I do. So okay. Years ago, I had a dream. I don't have sleep paralysis or anything. I've never had that. But one time years ago, I had a dream, and I don't think it was a dream. It wasn't. I woke up and I couldn't see. It was dark. It was nighttime when I was sleeping, but I couldn't see anything. Usually, you can wake up and you can see shapes in your room. I couldn't see anything at all. And then I felt pressure on me. And I was like, okay. I was like, don't panic, don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. But like, I felt this pressure, and it was just not like I could see nothing. I couldn't even recognize my dresser drawer, nothing. And I was just like, fuck. And then, like, after,
That would be my response.
exactly, like, after like 10 seconds, which seemed like really long, it stopped. And so I woke up, and at this time, this is years ago, but I still shared a room with my sister. She's like dead asleep, and I'm like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. So I get up and I go to the bathroom. I'm like sweating. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, something's in here. So I'm like, I can't like start like throwing Florida water around my room at 3:00 in the morning. Like, this is highly inappropriate. So, so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to pray. So that's like my number one thing. Like I said, Jesus is like my homeboy. And like, whenever I'm in a tight bond, he's one of the people I'm like, Jesus, listen, you know,
I love that Jesus listen.
I know. That's always how I start. I'm like, Jesus, listen, I am out here trying my best, and I'm gonna need a little help right now because I'm panicked. So whatever happened, please don't let that happen. Let me sleep. And when I was little, I used to like get these like randomly get paranoid about stuff. So I'd be like, I sound like such a psychopath. But I'd randomly be like, God, please let me wake up. Like, I wasn't going to die, but I used to get very nervous all the time that I wouldn't wake up. Some days I would just go to sleep and be nervous. So I'm like, God, please don't let me wake up. I'd be like 5. But now I was like older, but still I was like, God, Jesus, whoever is listening at this hour, please. If you guys,
I don't think you want it to be whoever.
I know. That's true. I know, right? I should be more specific. Sometimes I'm like, whomever is up there, one of the good ones, could you guys handle whatever? I was like, please take whatever's away. And like, I visualize like Archangel Michael with his blue sword. I'm like, just handle it. So the next day, just handle it. The next day I had gone to work, and like I came home from work and I got my holy water, because my holy water is another staple of mine. I love some holy water. I got my holy water and started throwing it around. And I'm just like, whatever's in here, please get out. I have my cross on. I was like, ooh. So now, since then, literally, this is like more than 10 years ago happened, but I like usually I wear a necklace all the time. I either sleep with it on or have it right next to me all the time. And I always feel like it protects me. Maybe it's in my head, but I don't care. So I just wear it anyway.
But it's like the sage, right?
Yeah.
So
it's my talisman. Yeah.
It's your intention of this is going to protect me, and so it will.
Exactly.
So, that's awesome. You had a holy water party in your room.
Yes, because when I was a kid, we wouldn't leave the house without my dad throwing holy water. That's his thing. Like, he's got to throw holy water before we leave the house. So for me, I'm like, all right, we're going old school. We're throwing some holy water out here.
Whatever works, right?
I had to do that. I felt like I had to do that one time at work. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. It's just everybody was always crabby and fighting with each other, and it's just negative stuff, bad stuff was happening. We couldn't keep people at work, and I'm like, all right, there's some bad shit here. So I'm taking my holy water, and I'm going throughout the whole restaurant, saying, all right, whatever the fuck you are, get out. I don't care. You can't come back.
Out.
If you're negative, get the fuck out of here. Go.
Get out.
Go. I did this at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm up there, and I'm just like, all right, whole fucking store's cleared. And then like literally after that, everything was fine. Like, we kept people. It was just the whole vibe in the restaurant just changed. It was so funny, but it was just like, all right, it worked. So I think I need to do that again, actually, because we're getting to that point again. And I'm like, no, fuck this.
So where do you source your holy water from?
Oh, I be taking it from the church. Like, I have a container, girl.
That's the best place.
Oh,
I love
Yeah,
that. I've been
that's the
taking it
best
from the
place.
church.
Oh, I be just going in there with my little bottle and filling it up in the fountain. Like the
Hey.
church I used
Yeah.
to go to, and like my best friend, she still goes there. Like, and I tell her, I'm like, Jillian, I just take water. She's like, girl, nobody knows, it doesn't matter. So like, I just go in there any random time. I just fill up my little bottle. I'm like, thank you. I do my sign of the cross, and I'm like, okay,
We're good.
we're good.
Right, thank you, Jesus.
I know.
All right,
I
cool, we're
kneel, I
good.
do my thing. I'm like, okay, see you guys later.
We are blessed. I was just curious because, people do talk about holy water and some people take it on in like paranormal investigations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, where do you just
Been
walk
there,
into
done
a
that.
church and get it like Lost
Oh
Boys
yeah,
style?
they
Like,
can't charge
what are we
you.
doing?
Or you can even get like a priest or somebody to bless your water. Like you can just get a thing of water at home and have somebody bless it.
Yeah.
You're
And
good to go.
I remember, this is my fun fact that I always tell people that I didn't know, but maybe everyone else knows this and they're just not telling me, trying to be nice. But the water in like Catholic churches all has to go into the ground, not into like a sewer system, because of the holy water, because it's not allowed to like mix with like the sewer. So
Oh.
yeah, so I feel real special when I go in there. I'm like,
Super special.
I don't. Yeah.
I wonder, like, could you get a filter blessed so that you put it in your water system and it's just
That would be
automatically
I bet you
blessed?
could. I totally bet you could. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Totally bet you could.
And I wonder how long, like, the Brita filters, they're like 45 uses. Like, how many do we get out of it before we need to re-bless it?
I know. And I have
Right.
I have friends who, there's a huge botanica in the Bronx. And I've
Mhm.
only been there once. But some people are like, oh, I bought some holy water there one time, and that was fine. But then I was like, why am I buying holy water all the way in the Bronx, first of all? And like, why am I buying holy water in the store? It's free.
You have to work for it.
Yeah, but like, if you don't want to go into the church, if you're like, you don't know where you have one, you can go into a botanica anywhere and you can get it. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Mhm.
So,
It kind of reminds me, real quick,
No,
sorry,
you're good.
of our old vampire episode when we were talking about getting like squirt guns and stuff
Just
with
filling
holy
them
water
with holy
to kill the
water. Oh my
vampires
gosh.
with
I'm telling you,
water balloons full of
it's
holy
like a
water.
catch-all. It's just good for everything. I know.
Good for
Right?
everything.
Good for everything, like
Yes.
rosemary.
But I wonder if it's like the sage, where you have to believe that the holy water will be effective.
Oh yeah, I
For it
think
to-
everything is the belief, right? Like nothing works unless you believe it works. For instance, I grow sage sometimes in the spring. It's just regular kitchen sage. I don't use white sage, but it works because I said it does. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said today this is gonna work.
With that said, I know, good Lord, I'm going to say this and the Catholic Church is going to have me taken out. But with that said,
It's nice knowing you, Ash.
if that is, it's what we believe is what carries it. Can we believe that we are connected to spirit enough to be able to bless water ourselves?
I 100% believe yes, because I think so. Everybody, at least in my belief, and I think a lot of people believe this, everybody has some source of divinity in them, right? Like there's a little piece of God in all of us. And actually the first Gnostic Christians, they believed that too. They believed like, oh, well, God is within all of us and we have to pray and do all these really good things to get it out. They had some good ideas. Some of them were weird, but like some of them were good.
I saw the Da Vinci Code. I know.
Yeah, exactly. No, some of them made a lot of sense and some of them made no sense. But like that one I like because they were like, yeah, there's a little bit of God in everybody. We just have to do all this like stuff, like, and really learn a lot and like be good people to get it out. So I think when you think like that, like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like you can be whoever you want. Again, that's where it comes, that like balance with ego, because that's how some people, I feel like people know that and people use it for really wonderful purposes and to help people. And then some people do that and they're like, I'm going to start a cult. Like, so it just depends. It depends on the person. there's so many wonderful people out here doing good things, and knowing that, like, even if they look at it from a secular point of view, not even just that like God's within me, but like I am a part of this big system of people, and my life should be helping other people, because helping other people also helps me, and it helps my family, and it helps my community when I do good for other people. If you want to be completely secular about it, it can look like that. But then on the spiritual side, to say, well, if we all have a little good piece of God's whomever in us, then aren't we all equal and deserving of like good things to happen to us? So if I help my brother, sister, whoever, if I help them, I'm helping myself, and I'm helping that little piece of God in them too, because we're all part of this same big weird system.
No, I mean, it makes complete sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And on tomorrow's podcast, how Ashley started a cult.
I know. And I also, okay, I'm going to get off my high horse in a second, but I believe that every religion and every spiritual path has a little bit of truth. Even if that's not mine, I believe that there's a little bit of truth in it. And all these characters, whether it's Buddha, Jesus, the Prophet Muhammad, they all, I think, knew that. And they were all like, look, I'm literally here to try to make us all come together. Then people got involved. And they were like, rules. But like, they were like, no, like, we just want to like make everybody feel good and like have a good life. So it gets weird.
Ego got involved.
Yes.
And not theirs.
Yeah.
People's.
Yeah. They were just like, here's the message. And then everyone's like, this is how we want to oppress others. And everyone's like, wait, what?
Look, Hogan, I'm trying to help you.
Exactly.
Help me help you.
Exactly.
But it feels like more and more people are feeling that truth inside of themselves trying to come out. Mm-hmm. They feel there's something more. They feel that connection of what each person was trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think there will always be ego, right? We're humans in this experience. There will always be ego, but I think more and more people are going to at least start to understand how to reconnect and maybe be more open.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, let's pray about it, because honestly, it's getting wild out here, and I can't handle it anymore.
It is getting wild.
Yeah.
But more and more people are having conversations like this, and it's becoming more normalized, and I think that's key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Holy cow. I feel like time has just been like zipping by.
I know. So
is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, like on what you do or your journey, or you just feel compelled to say?
Like, let's all try to get along. This is the most basic message ever. Like, let's all just be nice to each other, because everyone's going through it, fam. So yeah, that's my big grand message.
Everyone's trying to go through it. Yeah, I know. I'd be the one person that you get that like soul retrieval. I'd keep coming back to the same soul part. You'd be like, Ashley, you have to accept it. Accept it back. We're not going to bring this back a fifth time.
Oh, funny.
John, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I agree with Ashley. Like she said, we're all going through something. Freaking be nice to each other.
Like just try.
Quit being an
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah. Yes, John.
Be nice and don't take things too seriously.
Yeah, for real. It's going to be fine. And if somebody bothers you, just be like, hey, I didn't like that. You don't have to write. Like, we don't have to all be Twitter warriors. Like, just go outside, touch grass. Like, and then like get off your computer, calm down. It's going to be fine.
Go.
Or as someone once told Ashley, go hug a tree.
Go hug a tree. Yeah. She said, girl, you need to put your roots down. Go hug a tree. You're floating up in the sky. And I'm like, all right. So I'm going to hug a tree.
Hug a tree and shake it off. We got it.
So where can people find more about you, or if they want to work with you, how can they connect with you, Ashley?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, Sankofa Healing Sanctuary. I know that's long. It's Sankofa Healing Sanctuary at .com. And then you can find me on the internet on places like Instagram or Facebook at the same name. And you can find me on my podcast if you like that kind of thing. It's dinewiththedivine.com. That's my website, but also the podcast is Dine with the Divine, and it's anywhere you listen to your podcast. And you can find me on those handles on the internet if you want to talk to me at all. I'm here. I'm very open. Anybody can ask me questions. I'm always going to answer you. Trust me. I love talking to random people. It makes me happy. I like it. I do my best. If I don't know the answer to your question, I'll find it.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel like every podcaster who has guests has to love talking to random people to make it work.
It's like literally part of my job in life is to just talk to random people.
It's what you do.
Exactly.
Actually, I have one question
Yeah.
before we go, because it just hit me. In your soul retrieval process, has there ever been instances where you've found something that you didn't want to take back, like that was hard?
Yeah. For me personally, I found things that I'm like, no, that's not right. And I'll swear it's not right up and down. And it's just because in that case, I had always thought about myself one way, and I'm like, no, I'm not like that. And then I realized, no, I actually am like this. And I actually am very angry about this. And it was very difficult to realize that I was not the way I had always imagined. That was like the hardest thing. And I really struggled with like accepting that I was very angry and I was very mad because I usually was like, oh no, I'm not fine. Like I'm totally fine. Like to find out that I was not fine was jarring. So then so once
I love that it was jarring.
it was jarring. But once I was able, and it took a long time, like months, for me to really sit with myself and be like, okay, so what if I am like this? And also to realize that I had to, it's really funny. Sometimes you're angry or you have an emotion that maybe is quote unquote negative, but you don't, and you were like, I don't want to be angry. But then I realized, what am I going to be like when I'm not this angry? This is actually frightening. I don't know who I am without being like this. I'm used to always being like this. So that was the second part of me having to be like, holy shit, I'm just going to be a person in the world who's not pissed about this all the time. This is not going to drive me anymore. How am I going to live? Oh my God. And then I was fine. But it took a lot of me realizing that like, I don't have to carry around this anger. And actually I was causing some of my own problems by continuing to carry it around. Like I could just learn and process and try to let it go, which did eventually happen, but it just took time. So it sucked. It really sucked, but but it was so much better when I got to the other side. So it was yeah, it's me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on to this episode. I had such a great time talking to you and just being able to ask all my many million questions. So I really appreciate you being open to talking about these topics with us.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, John. Like this has been really, really fun. I've really enjoyed our conversations. It's been great.
Same.
Yes. Thank you. Your energy and your personality is just like
Oh,
I love
thank
it. It's
you.
fantastic.
Oh my gosh, you guys are great.
I love it. This has been a really great experience. All right, John Thomas, you want to bring us home?
I do. All right. Thank you again, Ashley, for coming on again. Absolutely wonderful to have you on. And thank you for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And if you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, again, you're slacking. We don't like slackers. Please like and follow all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Ashley.
Until next time. Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.